Blind Omega followed a wolf cry through snow. Unaware the calling voice was Alpha King. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to our main character. Sophia Davis had always been told that the world was different when you couldn't see. She didn't quite understand how different it was, not until she was wandering through a vast, silent landscape of snow. Her vision had long been taken from her in a tragic accident years ago, leaving her with nothing but her other senses to navigate the world. The wind bit at her exposed skin, and the soft crunch of snow beneath her boots was the only sound she could rely on. But then, there was something else. A sound, like a cry, but not from any bird or animal she knew. It was haunting, primal, and it pulled at her in a way she couldn't explain. For a moment, Sophia froze. She wasn't sure what she was hearing, but there was a strange urge to follow it. She took a cautious step forward, feeling her way through the snow. The voice echoed again, this time closer, more urgent. It was a call, like something inside her had been awakened, something deep and ancient. She knew it wasn't just the wind. It wasn't just her imagination. It was real. But who or what was calling her? She couldn't know, not yet. She kept moving, guided only by the strange, almost magnetic pull of the voice that seemed to wrap around her very soul. Her heart raced, but she trusted it. It was the only thing she could trust in this vast, white world. The cry came again, this time loud enough to make her stop dead in her tracks. It wasn't just any wolf's cry. There was something more to it. It wasn't until that moment that Sophia realized she was no longer alone. Somewhere in the distance, through the dense snow, she could feel another presence. A shadow moving, but unlike anything she had ever encountered before. It was something powerful, something with an air of authority that made the hairs on the back of her neck stand up. But what was it? Was it a wolf? Was it a man? She couldn't know. All she could do was follow the sound, her steps growing faster as she felt herself being pulled toward it, toward the unknown. The snow crunched beneath her boots in rhythm with her heartbeat. And all the while, the voice called out, drawing her in closer to the truth she was yet to understand. The sound of the wolf's cry echoed through the still night air, growing louder with every passing moment. Sophia Davis continued walking, her heart pounding in her chest. The snow crunched beneath her boots, but it felt as though the world was silent, save for that haunting call. She couldn't understand why she felt so drawn to it, as if something inside her was telling her she had no choice but to follow. She stumbled over a patch of uneven ground, her hand reaching out to steady herself against the chill of the air, but she didn't stop. The pull was too strong. She had to know what it was. Her mind raced, trying to process the strange sensation that was sweeping over her. It wasn't fear. It was something else, something that felt like both danger and safety all at once. Every fiber of her being told her that she was heading towards something important, something that would change everything. But what? She had no answers. Just the call, just the snow, and the distant, growing sense that she wasn't alone anymore. She had no way of knowing how far she had walked or how long the cry had been calling her. Time seemed irrelevant now. She was lost in the moment, driven forward by a force she couldn't name. The chill of the wind stung her face, but it didn't deter her. She barely noticed it, as the urgency of the call grew stronger with each passing step. As she crested a small hill, the cry changed, becoming softer, more distinct. She paused, her breath coming in sharp gasps, trying to make sense of what she was hearing. It wasn't just a wolf's call anymore. It sounded like words? She couldn't be sure. Her senses were overwhelmed. But there was a strange comfort in it, a warmth that settled in her chest, as if the very sound of it was calling her home. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sharp sound in the distance. It was a rustling, followed by a deep growl, but it was unlike anything she had ever heard. She froze, her pulse quickening. Was it the wolf? Or was it something else entirely? She didn't know, but she couldn't ignore the feeling that something, or someone, was drawing closer. Sophia stood still, straining her ears to catch the next sound. Her fingers tightened on her coat as she waited. The silence that followed felt like a stretch of eternity. And then, from the shadows of the trees ahead, a figure emerged. It was tall, powerful, and its presence filled the air with an energy that made her heart race. Her instincts told her to be cautious, but there was something undeniable about the way the figure moved, something that made her want to trust it. Was this the source of the cry? The figure stepped forward, closer now. Sophia could hear its footsteps, heavy and deliberate, cutting through the snow. She wanted to speak, to call out, but the words caught in her throat. There was something about this presence that made her feel small, fragile, as if she was standing before something far greater than herself. The figure was just a few steps away when a voice, deep and commanding, broke the silence. "Why are you here?" The voice was calm, but it held a weight, as if it had seen and known things that Sophia couldn't begin to understand. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. She could only stand there, frozen, staring at the silhouette before her. The man, no, the being, was unlike anyone she had ever seen. His presence was otherworldly, as though he belonged to a realm beyond her comprehension. His eyes gleamed, fierce and knowing, and Sophia realized with a sudden shock that the cry had come from him. He was the source. But who was he? What was he? And why had he called her? These questions buzzed in her mind, but she couldn't voice them. She could only stand there, lost in the overwhelming intensity of the moment. She was both terrified and captivated, uncertain whether to flee or stay. The figure didn't move, didn't speak. Again, he merely waited, his gaze never leaving hers. Sophia had no choice but to wait too, her heart racing as the silence stretched on, thick with the promise of something yet to unfold. The figure before Sophia stood motionless, its presence imposing and undeniable. The wind howled around them, the snow continuing to fall softly, but within the space between them, there was an odd stillness. Sophia's heart raced in her chest as she felt the weight of the figure's gaze on her. Her breath came in shallow gasps, her mind struggling to process what was happening. Who was this person? What was he? He wasn't like anyone she had ever encountered. The silence between them stretched, thick and heavy, yet she couldn't bring herself to speak. His eyes were the first thing that drew her in. Fierce, almost otherworldly, filled with a knowledge she couldn't even begin to understand. There was power in those eyes, but not the kind of power she was used to hearing about in stories. It wasn't about physical strength or authority. It was something deeper, older, as if he was a part of the very earth itself. "Why are you here?" The voice, deep and rich, broke the silence again, cutting through her thoughts like a blade. It wasn't harsh, but it held a gravity that made her feel small, almost fragile. She opened her mouth, but the words didn't come. Instead, her mind spun with questions, too many to voice. Who was he? Why had he called her? And why couldn't she stop herself from feeling this strange pull toward him? Her fingers trembled slightly, a subtle, involuntary movement, but it didn't escape the figure's attention. He took a slow step forward, his movements deliberate, confident, and somehow, despite the cold, he radiated warmth. Sophia took a step back without thinking, but then stopped, her feet rooted to the snow beneath her. She couldn't move. It wasn't fear, it was something else. Something powerful. "You can feel it, can't you?" The figure's voice was softer this time, almost a whisper. "The bond. It's always been there." Sophia's chest tightened as she tried to make sense of his words. What bond? She couldn't remember anything like that. But the moment he spoke, the pull she had been feeling all this time intensified, as if the words were unlocking something deep inside her. The connection between them, it was undeniable now. Her heart beat faster, a steady thump in her chest, but she still couldn't speak. The figure's gaze never wavered, and Sophia felt as though he could see right through her, into the very depths of her soul. The longer she stood there, the more she felt the connection between them. She didn't know what it was, but it was like something ancient, something woven into the very fabric of her being. It was as though he had always been there, a part of her life she had simply never noticed until now. "You don't have to speak," the figure said, his voice almost gentle now, as if understanding her struggle. "I can feel it too." Sophia took a deep breath, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotions inside her. She had so many questions, so many things she needed to understand. But for now, there was only one thing that seemed to matter. She stepped forward, just a little, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't know why she was doing it, but the pull was too strong to ignore. The figure's eyes softened, and for the first time, Sophia saw something like a flicker of recognition in them. It was brief, but it was there. He knew her, or at least, he knew something about her that she didn't understand yet. The wind shifted, and for a moment, the world around them seemed to grow still. It was as if the universe itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next step. Sophia stood there, her feet planted firmly in the snow, her heart racing, and her mind a whirl of confusion and curiosity. She had come this far, and now, she had no choice but to face whatever was waiting for her. The air was heavy with tension, and Sophia could feel her heart thudding painfully in her chest as she stood before the figure. She didn't know why she was moving closer, but her body seemed to respond to some unseen force. The figure's gaze remained steady, his eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her feel as though he was peering into the very core of her being. Every step she took felt like it was leading her into a world she was not fully prepared for, but her feet carried her forward anyway. The snow continued to fall, soft and gentle, but there was an undeniable weight in the atmosphere, as if the very earth itself was watching them. "You've felt it, haven't you?" His voice was quiet now, almost tender, but it still carried an undeniable authority. Sophia stopped just a few feet away from him, the space between them now pulsing with something she couldn't name. "I don't understand," she whispered, her voice barely audible above the wind. "I don't know what this is. What are you? What do you want from me?" Her words hung in the air, but the figure didn't answer immediately. He simply studied her with an expression that was impossible to read. Sophia shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what to do next. She had never been in a situation like this before. The call that had drawn her here, the strange pull she had felt toward this mysterious figure, it all felt like something out of a dream. But this wasn't a dream. This was real. "I am." The figure paused for a moment, his voice softening. "I am something you cannot yet fully comprehend. But that is not important right now." Sophia's brow furrowed in confusion, but before she could speak, the figure stepped forward, closing the distance between them in a single stride. His presence overwhelmed her, and for a moment, she felt as though she might collapse under the weight of it. He was so close now that she could feel the warmth of his body, and yet, there was still an undeniable coldness to the air around them. "There is something you need to understand," he continued, his voice low and steady. "You have been chosen, for reasons that are beyond your knowledge, beyond your understanding. But it is not something you can escape. Not anymore." Sophia's pulse quickened at his words. "Chosen? Chosen for what?" She wanted to ask, but the words stuck in her throat. Her mind raced, 1,000 questions tumbling over each other. Why her? Why now? The figure seemed to sense her confusion and hesitation. He gave her a small, almost imperceptible nod, as though he was aware of the storm of emotions swirling inside her. "It's okay to be afraid," he said quietly, "but fear won't change what's coming. You must accept it. You must trust what you feel. Trust that you are not here by accident." Sophia's thoughts were a whirl of chaos. Trust? How could she trust something she didn't even understand? How could she trust him? She had no answers, only the overwhelming sense that there was something deeper at play here. She had been drawn to this place, to this moment, for a reason. That much was clear. But what that reason was, she still didn't know. The figure's gaze softened just slightly, and for the first time since their meeting, Sophia felt a flicker of something that wasn't fear. It was something like connection. It wasn't love, not exactly, but it was something close. It was a thread that tied her to him, a bond that neither of them could explain. And as she stood there, facing this powerful, enigmatic being, she realized that she was no longer just following a call. She was part of something much larger than herself. Something that had been set in motion long before she had ever taken her first step into the snow. She took a shaky breath, her resolve hardening. Whatever was coming, she would face it. She had no choice. And so, she stood her ground, waiting for the next step, waiting for the figure to reveal what would come next. "I am not the one who decides this, Sophia," the figure said softly, his voice carrying an edge of something ancient, something that reached deep into her core. "You are. This path you walk, the choices you make, they will determine what happens next. You have always had the power to decide, but you must first accept that it is yours to wield." Sophia's chest tightened at his words. She felt something stirring within her, a mix of confusion and awe. She had always lived in the shadow of uncertainty, never fully understanding her place in the world. But now, standing before this figure, feeling the weight of his presence, it was as though everything was beginning to click into place. She had been chosen, yes, but for what? And why did she feel this strange, almost magnetic pull to him? Her mind raced with questions, but for the first time, she didn't feel desperate for answers. The calmness in his voice, the steady assurance in his eyes, seemed to reassure her. The figure took a small step back, his eyes never leaving hers. There is more to you than you realize, he continued, his voice gentle but firm. The bond that ties us is not of your making, but it is yours to claim. Your power is awakening, Sophia. It always has been, but now it calls to you. Sophia felt her breath catch in her throat. What power? She didn't feel any different. She wasn't special. Just an omega, blind and vulnerable, wandering through a snow-covered world. But as she looked into his eyes, she realized there was something more. Something hidden deep within her that was beginning to surface. You can fight it, the figure said, his voice growing softer, more contemplative. But you won't be able to run from what you are. You will find your way, eventually. It's in you. In all of us. Sophia felt a chill run down her spine, not from the cold air, but from the weight of his words. The realization was dawning on her now, like a fog lifting from her mind. She had always been different, but she had never understood why. She had always felt out of place, like she didn't belong in the world she had been born into. But now, standing here with him, she began to understand. She had a purpose. She had a role to play. But what was it? The figure remained silent for a moment, as if he was waiting for her to process what he had said. She could feel the anticipation in the air, thick and palpable. Sophia swallowed, the uncertainty still lingering. But there was a flicker of something else now. Something that burned within her chest. Something that told her she could face whatever was coming. What do I do? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. The figure's gaze softened, and for the first time since their encounter, she saw a glimmer of something close to warmth in his eyes. You trust yourself, he said simply. Trust the bond. It will guide you. And with that, he turned, the movement fluid and graceful, as though the very air bent around him. Come, he said, his voice carrying over the wind. The journey is just beginning. Sophia hesitated for only a moment before taking a step forward, her feet moving with purpose through the snow. She didn't know what awaited her, but she knew one thing for sure. The path was hers to walk. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid. She had no idea where this journey would lead, but she was ready to find out. With every step, she felt the bond between them growing stronger, pulling her forward into the unknown. Whatever was to come, she would face it, because for the first time, she believed in herself. She was no longer just a blind omega. She was something more. She was ready. The path ahead was unclear, but Sophia felt the pull within her growing stronger with every step. The snow beneath her feet crunched rhythmically as she followed the figure. She didn't know exactly where they were going, but there was a quiet assurance in his movements, a confidence that made her feel like she was exactly where she needed to be. The cold was biting, but the further they walked, the less she noticed it. Her mind, though still swirling with questions, was focused on one thing, the bond. It was undeniable now. The invisible thread that tied her to him, that had drawn her here, was something she could no longer ignore. But what did it mean? What was this force that was awakening within her? Her thoughts were interrupted when the figure stopped suddenly, turning to face her. His eyes met hers, and for the first time, there was no mystery in them, only understanding. Do you feel it? He asked quietly, his voice soft but carrying an underlying strength. She hesitated, her breath coming in slow, deliberate breaths as she searched for the right words. Yes, she whispered, but I don't understand what it is. He gave a small nod, as though he had expected that answer. The bond is ancient, he said. It's not just a connection between you and me. It's something that runs through all things. You've always had it within you, even if you didn't know it. And now it's time for you to awaken it. Sophia's brow furrowed as she absorbed his words. She had always known she was different, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. But how, she asked. How do I awaken it? The figure smiled faintly, a look of quiet pride in his eyes. The first step is accepting that you already have the power. You just need to trust it. Trust yourself. His words resonated deep within her. She had always doubted herself, always. Believed she was just a fragile omega, nothing special. But now, something inside her stirred. Maybe she wasn't just the person she thought she was. Maybe there was more to her than she had ever allowed herself to see. You're not just following a call, Sophia, the figure continued. You're answering something that's been inside you all along. Your journey is one of discovery, of realizing the strength you've always carried. The wind picked up again, swirling around them, but it no longer seemed as harsh. It felt like a natural part of the world, like the air was adjusting to the energy that was building between them. Sophia could feel it, the connection growing stronger, more tangible with every passing moment. She wasn't sure what it would lead to, but she knew that whatever was coming, she was ready. What happens next? She asked, her voice steady despite the uncertainty that still lingered in her chest. The figure stepped forward, closing the distance between them. Now, he said, his tone solemn, we begin to unlock the truth. The journey ahead will not be easy, but it will be yours. And you will find the answers you seek, as long as you are willing to embrace your destiny. Sophia took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his words. She was no longer afraid. She could feel the strength within her, the power that had always been waiting to be realized. She didn't know what was ahead, but she knew she would face it with courage. With each step, the bond between them deepened, and she felt herself becoming more attuned to the forces that were beginning to awaken within her. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready to face them. For the first time, she understood that she wasn't just a blind omega. She was something more. She was part of something much bigger than herself, and she was ready to discover where this path would lead. The figure led Sophia deeper into the forest, their footsteps the only sound in the quiet world around them. The snow was beginning to fall heavier now, but it didn't seem to touch them. There was a strange warmth that surrounded them both, a subtle shield that kept the cold at bay. As they walked, Sophia felt something stirring inside her, something she couldn't quite name, but it was there, strong, persistent, and undeniable. The bond between them seemed to pulse with every step, and the closer they got to their destination, the stronger it became. The figure walked with a purpose, his pace steady, and though Sophia couldn't see the path ahead, she felt as if she knew exactly where they were going. It was as if the forest itself was guiding her, every tree, every branch, every gust of wind pointing her towards something greater. "Where are we going?" she finally asked, her voice soft but laced with curiosity. The figure didn't answer immediately, his gaze fixed ahead. But after a long pause, he spoke, his tone calm but carrying the weight of experience. "You will see soon enough," he said. "The journey is not just about reaching a place. It is about understanding what is inside you. Only then will you be able to truly see the path ahead." Sophia nodded, though she still didn't fully understand. What was it inside her that needed to be awakened? She had always known she was different, but this felt like something far more profound than she had ever imagined. "You're not just following a path, Sophia," the figure continued, his voice cutting through the silence. "You are becoming something more. And in doing so, you will understand that your destiny is intertwined with the very world you walk through." She swallowed, her heart racing in her chest. The weight of his words settled over her like a heavy cloak, but it was not a burden. It felt right. The cold air seemed to carry the echoes of his words, wrapping around her, pulling her closer to the truth she had yet to grasp. "But what does this mean?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "What is it I need to do?" The figure stopped walking and turned to face her, his eyes locked onto hers. For a moment, everything around them seemed to fall away. The forest, the snow, the wind, all of it faded into the background as his gaze held her. "You are more than what you think," he said softly, stepping closer to her. "You have the power to shape the future, to change the world. But you must first trust in the bond, trust in yourself. You are not just an omega. You are the one who will bring balance, who will awaken the forces that have been dormant for so long." Sophia's heart skipped a beat at his words. She was not just an omega. The realization hit her like a wave, and yet, it felt strangely familiar. She had always felt like she didn't belong, like she was waiting for something, but now, it was beginning to make sense. The bond, the power, the purpose. It was all connected. She wasn't sure how to process everything, but there was no denying the truth of his words. She had always known she was different, but now, it felt as though her whole existence was leading her to this very moment. "What should I do?" she asked, her voice filled with a mixture of wonder and fear. The figure's expression softened, a glimmer of something almost like affection in his eyes. "You are already doing it," he replied. "By trusting yourself, by embracing what is inside you, you are already on the path to what comes next. And the next step will be the most important." He turned and continued walking, and though Sophia was still overwhelmed by everything she had just learned, she followed. Every step felt heavier now, but also more purposeful. With every step, the bond between them grew, and she felt herself becoming more attuned to the world around her, more aware of the power that was awakening inside her. Whatever was coming, she would face it. She had no choice. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid. She was ready. They walked in silence, the forest now feeling more alive than before. The trees whispered with the wind, and the crunch of the snow beneath their feet became a steady rhythm that seemed to echo the beat of Sophia's heart. She could feel the shift in the air, the way the world around her was beginning to respond to the bond, to the power that was awakening within her. The figure beside her moved with purpose, but there was a calmness in his every step that somehow made the world feel more manageable, less overwhelming. Sophia couldn't help but watch him closely, trying to grasp the full weight of what he had said. She was more than an omega. The power inside her was real. She could feel it now, a subtle hum that ran through her veins, vibrating just beneath the surface. It had always been there, she realized, hidden away. But now it was awakening. The truth of it both frightened and excited her. "How do I learn to control it?" she finally asked, her voice tentative, breaking the silence between them. The figure's pace never faltered, his expression unreadable, but his eyes softened when they met hers. "Control is not the right word, Sophia," he said, his voice steady and calm. "It's about understanding. The power is part of you, part of who you are. You don't need to control it. You need to accept it. You need to trust it." She took in his words, letting them settle into her mind. Trust. The idea of trusting something so deep, so unknown, was both terrifying and freeing. She had never been good at trusting herself, always doubting, always questioning. But now, standing beside him, feeling the pull of the bond, she began to understand that maybe trust wasn't as terrifying as it seemed. Maybe it was the key. They continued walking, the path growing narrower as they ventured deeper into the forest. The trees loomed over them now, their branches heavy with snow. The further they went, the more aware Sophia became of the changes happening within her. The air felt charged, crackling with energy, and she could feel the subtle shifts in the wind, the way the earth seemed to hum beneath her feet. She was attuned to it all, more than she had ever been before. "Where are we going?" she asked again, this time with more urgency in her voice. She had to know. The questions inside her were piling up, demanding answers. The figure slowed his pace, his eyes thoughtful. "You will see," he said simply, "but only when you are ready." Ready. That word again. What did it mean? How would she know when she was ready? Was there some final moment of understanding, some trigger that would unlock the truth? She had no answers, but the bond was growing stronger, pulling her forward. The forest seemed to respond to their presence, the wind picking up, the trees shifting as if guiding them. The moment was approaching, she could feel it. And then, without warning, the figure stopped. "This is it," he said, turning to face her fully. "This is where you must begin to understand. Everything has been leading to this moment." Sophia's heart raced as she stood before him. The moment? What moment? She didn't know, but she could feel the significance of it pressing down on her. She was here, standing at the edge of something great, something unknown. "You must let go of everything you think you know," the figure continued, his voice low, yet full of an undeniable strength. "The world you've known, the life you've lived, it's only a small piece of what is waiting for you. The power within you is not just yours. It is connected to everything, to everyone, and you must be willing to embrace it fully." Sophia swallowed, her throat dry. Everything. She had always been so certain of who she was, but now, standing here, it felt like the ground beneath her was shifting. She wasn't sure if she was ready for all of it, but something deep inside her was calling her forward. She had no choice but to step into the unknown, to trust that the bond, the power, the path, it would all lead her where she needed to go. And so she did. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, feeling the weight of the moment, the weight of everything that had brought her here. The journey was just beginning, but for the first time, Sophia wasn't afraid. She was ready.